what you were just saying is, man, your son doesn't have to earn your love, right? Like, you love your son. So in the same way, the gospel is anti-earning, but it's not anti-effort. There's going to take some effort to get closer to God.
Welcome into episode 2 of the Steadfast Brotherhood podcast. Thank you for the overwhelming response to the first episode. We just put it out there last week, and it's been a great response. A lot of good, and I feel like we didn't even promote it that much. So, I appreciate everybody that's listened to it. I hope it's been encouraging to you. We hope to encourage you again today. We have a special guest with us. We have Mount Pisgah's student minister and young adult pastor, Mason Leonard, with us. Mason, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thankful to be here. Thankful to get on and talk about the Lord with you guys, maybe talk about our stories. So thankful to be here. It's an honor. It really is.
Yeah, absolutely. We got Jeff and Daniel back with us, co-host of the show. How are you guys doing, and how's your week been?
Really good. Busy, but really good.
Yep, same here. Busy, just trying to do life. Get through the week, get to the weekend, and the weekend seemed to be as busy as the week. So.
That's how it typically goes, right? You know, you're always busy. Y'all's kids are starting back school, so I know Jeff's kids were at baseball camp this week at Clemson. That's pretty sweet. So a lot of cool things going on, and Mason's about to have a baby, so I am
about to have a baby any day now. Yesterday we actually got in a wreck. It was a little bit of a scare, and so we spent some time in the hospital getting her checked out, but she's actually having like some little contractions. We found out by going to the hospital. Got us a little more comfortable to be in the hospital here in a couple of weeks, so it could happen any day now, so we're excited.
Yeah, and it's crazy. I got 2 kids. Jeff has 2, Daniel 3, so you'll join the fatherhood clan over here.
Yep.
Ready or not.
Join the club. So our kids have been homeschooled. So our oldest went to high school for the first time last year, and then our middle, he had to meet the teacher last night, so he's going in the 9th grade. So it's a little bit of a different feeling this year going into it than it has in the past, but
sure. Yep.
Yeah. My wife's starting to homeschool Hayden this year, so it'll be a new experience for us. So looking forward to that. But
she's a teacher, so
yeah, she's taught for 7 years for us. I know. That's why I always said
Daniel Leopard
I was like, I'll never have homeschool kids, man. And she's like, and I understand as the world has kind of gone as it has. She's like, I really want to homeschool. I'll feel led by God. I was like, I can't argue with that.
Sure.
So basically, y'all cheating before you even get started. Than other parents out here that's homeschooling. You cheating already.
Teaching degree just to do it at home.
Yeah. We spent a lot of money on some degrees for homeschooling, right? But it's good, man. I'm thankful that she has that. She feels that calling,
That's awesome.
I know my kids are in good hands, so
cool.
It'll be good, man. I'm excited for you to become a father, and any day, I guess, huh?
I'm very excited. I really am, and I'm thankful for a church and people around me that I get to see some good fathers around me do it. So I'm very blessed to just have the role models and the men around me to get to do it. And I guess that's what we talk about on here, right? Just godly men. What's manhood? So
yeah. And why is that so important to you, like in the church or even in the realm of Christianity? Like, why do you think that biblical manhood is so important?
Yeah, man. I would start, honestly, with John 10:10, man. I would open it, but it says, there's a thief that comes to steal, kill, and destroy. So the reality is we have an enemy. And men, if we expect to fight an enemy, we need to have an army of brothers around us to fight this enemy, because there's an enemy out there trying to steal, kill, and destroy everything we've got, whether that be our family, whether that be our own integrity, our own character. So I've just learned, and I can talk about it in my story here in a minute, but I learned through college the importance of having some brothers around you and men around you. So, the most important thing in a nutshell is, man, we're in a fight. We're in a war with an enemy. So I don't want them to steal, kill, and destroy my life. So I know I need some brothers around me to help me fight.
Absolutely. And even as you step in this new season of life, having those people are so important. And I've walked through seasons of my life where I feel like I haven't had that, and that's hard. So I think that it's so important. What I've been so encouraged with here, I said it last episode, is just having godly men. I walk in and see these godly men that are worshiping the Lord, and that just encourages me so much. That's what makes my heart happy. And to have people that have accepted me so quickly at this church and just become good friends already, that means so much. And to have that fellowship, I think is so crucial. And I think when we think about our stories, those matter. And your story, like as far as how you've gotten to this place, as far as biblical manhood, all of our stories can impact people. And I think that's what's so cool. So, Dan, you got something you want to share?
Yeah, so they can impact folks for sure, but I think once we get those guys we can talk to, like Mason will ask me sometimes, hey, what did y'all do with this? I got a kid coming. What did y'all do in this situation? Your kids do this. How did y'all go through that? And I typically say it was all Vanessa, but no, I think too, like when you ask that, like you got to be willing to hear what they say too, right? Like it's not just, hey, what's your story? Like you got to apply it at some point. And I think that's the tough part as men. Sometimes you may hear something you don't like about yourself. Inside of this, Jeff may say, hey, I'm doing this, what do I need to be doing? And you just tell him everything. And he may be going, dang, I didn't want all that, right? But you got to have the back and forth where you can share something that you're struggling with and then be able to apply what you hear back.
Yep.
It's good.
I'll get on another thing. So if anybody doesn't know, what are y'all having? Boy or girl?
Boy. Baby boy coming.
Y'all got a
It's
name
Holden
yet?
Ray Leonard. Holden Ray.
Holden Ray Leonard.
Holden Ray Leonard.
Okay,
So
so-
Holden is after the beach that I grew up going to, Holden Beach in North Carolina. Ray's actually after my grandpa. So his name's Dennis Ray, and Leonard's my last name. So Holden Ray Leonard.
So with your background, is that a different mindset knowing that you're bringing a son, you and your wife are bringing a son into the world instead of a daughter? Does that change in your faith and the way you're reading scripture or your teachings to other young men now that this is about to come to full life of having your own future man here? Is that
Absolutely.
something you think about?
I would say that y'all definitely know this feeling, but when we were figuring out what he was going to be, what she was going to be, what it was going to be, I honestly started convincing myself, man, I hope it's a girl, because it feels like an added pressure to raise a man. With a girl, I had in my mind, man, this is gonna be my little princess. I'll love her. I'll fight somebody for her. But with a boy, man, you got to raise a man, and that's a tall task. And there's a lot of weight to that. And so, yeah, I feel an added sense of pressure because I know how bad I am and how much of a dummy I've been through my teenage years, through my years now, in my 20s. I'm the worst sinner I know. So raising up a son to, in some ways, hopefully be like me, but in a lot of ways, I hope he doesn't kind of adopt my habits. So figuring out how to raise a man does feel like an added pressure. It's a good question.
Yeah, you're right on that. And as far as the girls go, we had a girl first, and we were talking about having another one, and I was like, no, I'm good. She listens. She does what we say. Let's just cut it right here. But then there, boys, you can, sports. You were involved in sports. It is the added pressure, and you want them to be better than you are, right? Mm-hmm. So you got to show them, hey, I made this mistake. I did this. Like you got to be transparent because they see it too, right?
Sure.
So, but yeah, the thing with the girl, like Earboy, she just. Listen, yes, sir, no, sir. I was like, we good here.
That's a blessing for sure. It is fun. I've always, Hayden's 4, so, I've thought about this and, playing sports growing up, it was all the dads, almost, wanting their kids to just, obviously we want our kids to be the best, but I feel like there's a lot of daddy ball out there.
Yep.
And, I've just always been I just hope that's not me. And I don't want that to be me, but I'm I just kind of want Hayden to just do his thing. Yeah. But it's funny because I think that's kind of the culture when we're pushing kids to be good at things that really don't matter in the world.
That's a great point because a mentor of mine, he told me this recently, man, and I thought it was so good. His son's a great athlete. He's going to college to play football, but he said, a commitment I made is whenever I watch that boy play a football game, is if he gets off the field and he might have had 2 interceptions, might have ran one back for a touchdown. He said, I never compliment his performance. I compliment the effort and the integrity and the character I saw him play with. It's I always go deeper to what played out into that performance. Because he was explaining to me, man, if we we are proud of them based on whether they did good or bad on a field, man, they're just going to be up and down. But if you compliment the effort and the work they're putting in, regardless of the outcome, man, that's a man that you're raising. Like there's something that's coming off of that field of learning, man. The hard work was the win there, not the getting the base hit or not. I thought that was pretty gold.
That's powerful. And I think the reality is that's off topic, but sports are like 90% in your head, honestly. It's between the ears. So like if you get those things right, like if you have your headspace right, if you trust God, like, and truly believe that your strength comes from him, I think you'll perform, you know, like when you give it to God and just let him. So I think that's a really good point.
I think the big thing for me about being a father, especially knowing I have a boy and now doing the faith and walking this path, it hurts your ego. It hurts your pride, because I think all of us can sit here and say it, and I think it's been shared. It's not something I came up with when I say this, but we are the only men in their lives that will actually want them to be better than us. And being a competitive spirit or things of that nature, what I think is all good, it's humbling, and it strikes your ego, and it breaks you down to the thing, because ultimately your goal is to watch your sons get to this point that you either never reached as your own personal goals or exceeded the standard that you pushed.
Sure.
And for me personally, having very type A personality, being arrogant at times in my younger years, and then having these two sons come and look at them and humbly sitting there telling myself that I definitely want these guys to be better in all aspects that I ever have.
Sure.
And that's sometimes a hard pill to swallow.
I think that's so good, because what you just said, fatherhood so closely ties to the gospel. You know, I mean, if God is our father, so what you were just saying is, man, your son doesn't have to earn your love, right? Like, you love your son. So in the same way, the gospel is anti-earning, but it's not anti-effort. Like there's going to take some effort to get closer to God. There's going to take some effort to be a good man, to stand firm and act like a man, like it says in 1 Corinthians 16:13. Like, to stand firm and act like a man, that's some effort to that. Like, I don't have to earn God as my father, but I need to show forth some effort, you know. I thought that was so good, what you just said.
Well, and, you know, we're talking about sports, and, you know, I sit here, and sports are different now than they were when I played. Like, when I played, you had kids that were good, and you had kids that wasn't good, and those kids that had to work hard for what they got. Now it's kind of transformed into okay, we got 9 or 10 kids that are the best around, and the other kids just go play somewhere else. So the element of getting on a team and working hard is kind of gone, right? But and I think from years of coaching my kids, like, for me, sports is a tool to teach encouragement. It's a tool to teach the fundamentals of the sport. But there's so many life lessons in sports that do flow with the gospel. And using that, but now I feel like it's gotten to where it's just about winning. And I want to win, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm competitive. Like, I beat Mason all the time in
ridiculous.
cornhole.
You lying on a podcast.
In cornhole. And
right here in the church.
And Mason doesn't like to be beat, and I beat him in basketball. I mean, we got to get to the story, but my point is, like, we need to take – I feel like we need to slow down and really use these areas that we're doing things with our kids, not only for their learning of the sport, but for as a tool for God too, because it just runs hand in hand, and you can see so many different outcomes, not just about the winning in baseball, but in life as well.
Yeah, I've been humbled with that pretty quickly, because I was like, when I want obviously my son to be good, but I shared with you guys yesterday, about 14 months ago, Hayden was diagnosed with Perthes disease, which means that his hip joint's not developing. And so he woke up one day, and I don't want to get on a tangent about the story, but basically he couldn't walk. We were just like, what happened? And so, yeah, it was very scary. He was fine for nearly 3 years. And then, we got some x-rays. He limped for a while, and then they diagnosed Perthes. And so we had to go back yesterday to have his year checkup or whatever. And his hip, it is developing. Like, the picture is really neat to see, like the hip joint is developing. So like that's God. But like I also was acknowledged then. I was like, well, he's never going to be like a good runner or a good athlete. So like that humbled me, you know, in that way. I'm like, what matters in life? Does that really matter all that much? Or like he just enjoys it. And like he started playing sports this year, played soccer and t-ball. Like he was slower than all the kids. And like we noticed him, he runs a little funny. If you know, like other parents probably didn't notice, but like he still loved it and had fun. And that's what mattered at the end of the day, right?
Absolutely.
So, all right, let's get into Mason's story. I think sports are a part of your story growing up, but if you want to share any of your story, and then we'll kind of have some questions about it, but go ahead, Mason.
Yeah, so my story is I grew up in a Christian home. Every time the doors were open, Pastor Chad says it all the time, man, I had a drug problem. I got drugged to church every week. So every time the doors were open, man, I was there for as long as I can remember. Same church for 18 years of my life, home church. I made a profession of faith when I was 5 at VBS, and I wanted to tell everybody, had to call all the family members, tell them that I gave my life to Jesus, and it was one of those situations where teacher kind of said, raise your hand if you don't want to go to hell kind of deal. I didn't, so I made a profession, and so I still remember that day. I really do, and I'm thankful for that. But kind of fast forward till I was about 13, so between that 5 and 13 age gap, I was already going down a path that I look at some of my 11 and 12-year-olds now that are in my youth group. I'm like, man, like I was actually different than these kids. And in a lot of bad ways I was already learning just language at school, had been introduced to pornography at a very young age, and was already just a young mind trying to figure out, man, what is all this? Because I'd go to church, then I'd be at school, and it'd be two very different environments. So I can look back and know that there was already being some things that trained in me. And honestly, that's not anybody's fault. That's just the nature of sin. Living in the world is, to some degree, of learning how to be fake. I mean, there's to some degree that's just true. But I was big into baseball, loved baseball, was in middle school, had a baseball tournament one weekend, but I had a friend in my youth group who kept inviting me to come to this student conference, kept inviting me. It was so aggravating. I couldn't stand this dude. But I was 13. He invited me to come to Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Got there. Man, I just felt Holy Spirit's conviction just come all over me. I knew I needed to be saved. So I really believe when I was 13 in April, got saved. A few months passed. And I just constantly had this word in my mind all the time. I'd wake up in the middle of the night as a 13-year-old, preach. And I wouldn't say it was audible, but I mean, genuinely, it was almost, I just could not shake it for like 6 months, wrestling through that, all the things. So at summer camp, it was a Tuesday night on July the 8th. I went and got my youth pastor and said, I got to surrender to ministry. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that looks like. But I got to do it.
And this is why you're 13?
13. I was going to turn 14 here in a couple of days. And I just knew at that point, surrender to ministry. Nobody in my family has ever been into ministry. Honestly, when I got back home, they were happy, but didn't really know what that meant, that I was called to ministry. So it wasn't over the moon excitement. And honestly, a lot of people tried to talk me out of it. So that fall following that, get into high school, and unfortunately, salvation experience, surrender to ministry experience, and then bam, starts my most regretful mistakes of my life through high school, even after a surrender to ministry and after salvation. So yeah, all through high school, man, I was held to a certain degree in my youth group as like the young preacher boy, the leader of my youth group. Got a lot of attention for kind of being just an outspoken leader. And honestly, there was no spiritual depth to me, but I just happened to be outspoken. So so I got elevated as a leader in my youth group. And through that, I learned the right things to say, how to say the right things, how to communicate it, when to throw my hands up in worship. And then the night before on a Saturday night, man, I'd be with friends just being a dummy, man. So all through high school, I wouldn't say it was all disingenuine. There were some high points spiritually where I really feel like the Lord had captured my heart and I was making strides. Then I'd go right back into it, whether that was pornography, whether that was sneaking to parties, whether that was I mean, I could go on a list of what those things looked like. So, yeah, all through high school, it was just marked by sin and marked by not being genuine. So, fast forward, I could tell you a lot there, but my senior year was when the Lord really got my attention. First game of the football season was on kickoff, came down, went to hit a guy, tackle him, and hit my head. I saw stars. Didn't think much about it that day. Went through the game, whatever, not thinking much of it. The next day, about halfway through the day, I didn't feel right. Everything felt weird. And then I look in the mirror, and this side of my face, the right side of my face, is just drooping down. Can't move it, don't have control over my eye, don't have control over being able to smile. And it's literally like a line down my tongue of like, can't feel anything. Rush me to the doctor, get checked out, and they tell me that I had a severe case of Bell's palsy. So what had happened was there's a nerve behind your ear, only on the right side, that if that nerve gets ruptured, you get something called Bell's palsy, where you don't have any control over the right side of your face. So things were super loud in my right ear. I couldn't close my eye. I'd start having to tape it shut. I'd have to like pull my mouth up to smile. It looked kind of funky. It really did. But I do have pictures of it. It's pretty tough. It was right around Halloween, so I had my costume. It was right there. But so yeah, I had that, and the doctors told me, man, honestly, this is probably going to take 6 months to heal, or in some cases, it's permanent. And man, it's my senior year. I'm arrogant. Like I love girls at the time. Like I'm about to have my senior pictures here in a little bit. I'm about to have scholarship interviews for college. So in my mind, I mean, people have been through far worse things than that, far worse. But that's what the Lord used to get my attention at that time, in that time of my life. So He just broke me in those days. And within about 2 months, He actually healed me from it. The doctor said, man, this is a case of, like, it shouldn't have healed this quickly. But in that, the Lord really got my attention. Fast forward, was supposed to go to Chapel Hill. That was my dream school, wanted to go to Chapel Hill. But a friend of mine was going to Anderson University, had never heard of Anderson before, a couple of months before I went, coming from Shelby, North Carolina. So a couple of months before I went to Anderson, I went on my first visit there. I liked it. I was like, I guess. But they told me about a scholarship that I could interview for. Went through that process and was able to use Bell's palsy in that story for some of the questions. And the Lord just knitted me and a lady named Pam Ross's hearts together. Ended up receiving that full ride to go to Anderson. Very blessed for that. Went to Anderson as a business major, not wanting anything to do with ministry or anything like that. Had walked away from all of that. But at Anderson, with that brotherhood we talked about earlier, was whenever I for the first time had a guy sit down with me every week and say, listen, man, like, I believe in you. Like he'd speak life into me. He'd speak truth into me. And he'd sit down and over lunch every single week on Tuesday at 12 o'clock, we'd sit down and just open the Bible and read it together. And he just started caring about me, man. And we had this small group, and he started trying to elevate me as a leader. He's like, man, I need you to speak up in here. I need you to pour into these guys. I need you to do this. So he started giving me this role in this group. But at the same time, I reverted back to, all right, I'll say the right things on a Thursday night small group, but I'm still going to go to Clemson this weekend. Went to Clemson one weekend, was at a party. It got back to my buddy Brandon that I was doing that and there. And, man, someone else told me that night he was up, like, crying in his room, just broken over my sin. And whenever somebody else told me that, he didn't even have to tell me. I'm like, man, I've never had somebody care about me like that. If this dude cares about me like this, why don't I care about me like that? So I just felt like an idiot like that.
And this was the guy that drew you.
Yes,
to AU.
absolutely. Okay. Yeah. No. So another friend is what got me to Anderson. I met this friend at Anderson.
Okay, gotcha.
So he was a year older than me. Ended up being the best man at my wedding. And man, I owe a lot to this dude, just in my walk with Jesus. But But yeah, man, that was the turning point. My sophomore year, I switched to Christian studies, and ever since then, hadn't turned back, man. And Lord brought me to Mount Pisgah, knitted me and Pastor Chad's heart together, and I'm just so thankful for where I'm at, man. And a few things with that, like my church background is unique in the sense that many of the relationships that I had from 0 to 18, those bridges have been burned because I'm in ministry here at Mount Pisgah. We do things a little bit differently, and where I come from, that's not really acceptable to do anything at all differently from how you were raised. So yeah, a lot of those bridges.
How'd you grow up? What denomination did you grow up?
So I grew up Independent Baptist, and it's a niche area of Independent Baptist, and I do not want to get in on here at all and bash where I came from. It just still breaks my heart that I can't have the friendships that I had for those 0 to 18 years. And I know that a lot of them would have pretty strong opinions about what I'm doing now and the ministry that I'm leading now because it's different. But yeah, that was a really hard thing, and still is, with some family members, with some people that I loved, man, that helped mold me and develop me into a person. I mean, to this day, I'm blocked on Facebook, and we never had a conversation. I just got blocked. And so they see that I'm in a different place, in a different church, and that was enough for them. So that's been hard. Really dealt with some mental struggles there. Because, I mean, man, the people who form you and develop you for 18 years, and then you just get dropped, the drop of a hat without even a conversation, that hurts. But the Lord's been good, and I'm thankful for my heritage. I really am. I just wish it didn't have to be that way with people almost cutting you off in the name of the Lord when that's all I'm doing, man. That's my life. I'm here 70 hours a week, so at the church. So yeah, that's tough. But the Lord's good, and I believe that He can soften hearts. And listen, I'm not only casting rocks at people that do that. I am constantly asking the Lord, help me on, even if I am responsible for 2% of those relationships falling through. Even if I'm guilty of 2% of it, I want to own 100% of the 2%. I want to own what I can own. But at this point, it's been pretty clear to me that I've owned what I can own, and it might just be how it is. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it's easy to look back, like for me, and look back at all the friends I had in high school, and I feel like I wasted a lot of time and years. Don't have any of those friends anymore, sadly. But like, what kind of impact could I have made if I was living, how I was supposed to? Because I feel like our stories are similar in a lot of ways, and I kind of have regrets of those years. And it wasn't until I got to AU where I really built like good, godly, genuine friendships. And so, I just think about like, what if I was responsible for being a witness to somebody, and like I'll watch them go down a path they shouldn't, and that's convicting to me, so that's tough.
Yeah, and I think too, because I have the same thought sometimes. What if I could have led somebody down a different path, and if you didn't, unfortunately it is what it is. But I think too, listening to your story and listening to the guy at AU, what you read and what you put into your life is what is going to come out, right? So him speaking encouraging things, truth, speaking to you, like building you up, pushing you, like, to me, those are great things and things we need to be doing to each other. Like if you constantly hear what you do wrong and what you did wrong, then you're just going to be like, well, I'm just a failure, right? Like I'm just down in the dumps. So speaking that encouragement and speaking life into folks is tremendously huge, and I think we forget about that a lot.
I think there's a fine line between like speaking the truth and like how we're called to call people out in sin, but also encouraging. I think that a lot of times we hear pastors just, beat people up, but also like there's that encouragement factor too. Like we know the truth. We know that Christ, already has done the work for us on the cross. And that's the encouragement. It's like, we don't have to walk out of here with our heads hung despite our past. We all have past. We all have past sins. We still sin today because we are human beings. But because of Christ, his death on the cross is sufficient for us, even still, as we continue to, be imperfect. We're striving for that. We won't be until heaven, but it's progress. It's not perfection.
So I'm going to revisit because I'm trying to keep cliff notes in my head of questions I want to ask you, but I think in your story you said 11 you were introduced to pornography. Was that about roundabout at the age?
About 7th grade, 6th, 7th grade.
Okay. And this is for any year. I'm pretty sure most of your people you're leading here in church probably know some of your story, and maybe some of them don't. But I'm curious of what was your Achilles heel that you knew at 13, which I think is wild, that God spoke to you in a way that you felt like you needed to preach and you needed to lead a ministry. But what was the Achilles heel that kept drawing you, those God pokes are real. I believe that because I've experienced them. But what was that Satan grasp on you that kind of just kept redirecting you during that time as a young man and and growing into yourself?
I think a lot of that calling was because a lot of the heroes in my life at that point in my life were preachers. And I don't think that negates the fact that it was a true calling on my life. It was just where God positioned me and grew me up to look around and see, man, these heroes of the faith in my life were pastors and preachers. So I think a lot of that, man, there was an awe to that, to be able to be called into ministry whenever I was 13. So then that Achilles heel in that calling was me getting to school and like, man, it seems like these people at school have a lot more fun than I do. Man, it seems like these people at school, I go to their neighborhoods, they got a lot more money than we do. Man, I like hanging out with these friends. So it's funny, a pastor I listen to all the time, he grew up much like me, independent, fundamental Baptist. He says, man, fundamental Baptist, it's a whole lot of mental and not a lot of fun. And so I thought that was so funny. But so I think some of that was, man, I was just immature, young as a kid, and there was something in me that was gravitating towards sin. Man, I wanted to have fun. Because anybody who tells you that sin isn't fun, might not be doing it right, because sin can be fun for a little while, but then you end up in a desert, and you end up in a mess. But it wouldn't be enticing if it wasn't fun at first, and I was chasing that.
Yeah, I think I've seen when you're talking about that, and it really hit me. I saw I think it was a YouTube clip or something. A pastor was giving illustration, and he was talking about sin in that type of way where he kept bringing one of his deacons or whoever was his assistant to come and just put chains on it. He was just talking about drinking, and he put a chain on. And then, women put a chain on. And it was just the point like he's wearing 75 pounds of chains. And he was just, the only difference is all these things that this guy, this thing is putting on me is at the time I'm not aware of how much it's weighing me down and how much bondage is actually wrapping around me. And I think that we get to that point when you say, is sin horrible? Well, yes. And I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's about the only time I hear God saying he hates something. It's sin. And the devil flips it. He's the professional liar. And so he's not going to put you, hey, I'm going to give you these chains and they're going to be heavy, buddy, so wear them. And you're like, yeah, let's go. Yep. He's going to give you those things. And I'm just curious to wrap around my question is just, I think it's amazing that you heard that God poke or felt that God poke at 13. You're introduced to something at 11 and you kind of have a direction, but something's pulling you. And I think a lot of kids, especially in a day and age now, what these kids are learning, what you learned at 11 are probably learning at 6. I mean, I'm a law enforcement officer, and some of the things I see in people's houses, I didn't know until I was in high school. And I didn't know if there was something that, again, that just gravitated back to you, that just kept reeling you back in over and over and over.
Like I said, like we said earlier, I'm the youth pastor here, and the average age, that's not the youngest age, the average age for being introduced to pornography today is 8 years old. It's the average age. It's an epidemic. It really is.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Daniel, you've got older boys than we do. Are there safeguards that you've put up? Because that's a major issue. I know how it wrecked my life in high school, and I think about that. My son's 4, but we were even talking before we started. Everything's just so desensitized now. Netflix can put anything on there, right? And even now, social media allows nudity to be posted. It's not even blurred out on social media platforms. It's I'm just really worried about for my son, like, how do we safeguard that? And how practically do we, like, raise kids in this world to try to, I don't want to say shelter them, but, like, also, like, we got to protect them from those things because we know how destructive it can be.
Yeah, so no phones. No, phones are a way of life now, right? Like, so that's my always go-to. I'm like, Vanessa, we just need to get rid of these phones. But, like, you can't, because once they get to middle school age and they start playing sports, the coaches want to deal with them directly. Like the parents, you don't want, you want to go talk about playing time. You want to talk about this. You talk to the kid and the coach. So, and then they communicate over sports, over apps. So, you can get there's a couple different phones that you can get that guard against this stuff, but it don't let you download any other apps. So it really kind of not forces you into it, but it pushes you that way to get them. So then, we're big on not social media till a certain age. And then, of course, those social media apps have age restrictions, and then you can get parent accounts and guardian accounts. And then there's other things that you can do to put on the phones as far as restrictions and screen time and such. So the list goes on and on about that stuff. It's just which area you choose to use or which program you choose to use. But there's such acceptance is so big these days. And I think, like, you being 13 called into the ministry, like, that's not unheard of, but that's not the common culture in any of our middle schools or high schools, right?
Sure.
You're going to be one of 200 if. So, that's that's tough, but everybody wants to be accepted. Everybody wants to look good on social media. Everybody wants to be, the in crowd, and it's just it's a battle that everybody's fighting. I mean, we were at Meet the Teacher last night, and you now have a set of rules for cell phones. No cell phones. If you see your cell phones, no earbuds. Like, they had 6 rules about cell phones, and I'm like, well, if you just didn't have them. But again, I'm on mine a good bit.
My next question for you in your story is, and whether you want to share it or not, that's up to you here. But your call into ministry and your closest ones were the ones that kind of just dropped you, because it wasn't their way of thinking. Because I think in my story, that's what pushed me away. I was raised Pentecostal, and because it was my tattoos, I got prayed over because I'm going to hell and that sort of thing. And I just thought Christian people, including yourself, Mason, when you get all y'all a bunch of hypocrites. How do you flip that? How do you look at the cup half full? How do you get lemonade out of that lemon type things of knowing these people have a very intimate relationship with you that most of us here probably won't ever have because they knew you from whenever you were born, and you still continuing your path, you're continuing your faith in God and knowing where you want. And also, second part of that, how's your wife deal with that with you? Because I know this is about a bunch of dudes talk, but our wives are a very important pillar in our home, that she's got to probably sometimes, like my wife has been the punching bag, because that's just who's in our household. So I know 2-part question, maybe a little complicated, but I'm curious how you still stay disciplined in that.
I'll give you an example of the amazing woman that I've married.
Are you trying to get brownie points
No,
with that one?
No, this is just God's honest truth. Whenever we were engaged, a family member got up at my church Sunday morning, 400 people, got up at my church and said, y'all pray for my son. Everybody knows who his son is. Y'all pray for my son. He's with a girl that's pulling him away from everything we've ever told him. On the live stream, on everything. And whenever I know my wife to be the most godly girl that I've ever met in my life, and somebody can get up and say, who's not taking the time to meet her or know her, can get up and say that she's the problem, that'll tick a man off, right? But her, nah. Whenever I was mad, she showed grace. She committed to us praying for them every day. And And she said from the get-go, she never got mad. She never got upset, never once. Like her initial response to that was, well, we're going to pray for him. And so.
Well, hold on, let me stop it. How did that make you feel?
Mad.
Because I felt like at that point she's leading you when I'm learning in the
like
Bible we lead.
ant.
We done. Yeah. Okay. All right.
And so anger and bitterness is like wanting somebody else to die, but you drinking the poison, right? And so I have had to learn forgiveness over the past 6 years in a way that I had never known. So I can say with complete and full honesty that I forgive those people. I really do. But there are certain boundaries that come along with forgiveness that just because I forgive you doesn't mean I can trust you. Because you've said things about me, you said things about my wife, my family, and to this day I still know how you feel. So I forgive you, but I can't trust you. Trust is going to have to be earned back. So I would say that the biggest part to your first part of your question is in dealing with this, man, I know that for 18 years of my life I thought that was the right way of thinking, the way that those people think. So if I was taught and I only came up through that church, I only came up through that way of thinking, I've got to show grace to those people who have never left like I got to leave. So I've had to train myself to show grace to those people because they really just don't know any better. They didn't have the opportunity and the blessing to leave Shelby and get to Anderson and then get discipled by a guy and then end up at a Mount Pisgah Baptist church. Like their cards weren't dealt that way, and they're still in a place where they've been taught a certain way to think. And I was in that place for 18 years of my life. So with that perspective, like I have to show grace to those people because I thought the same way whenever it's all I knew.
I think you said something. We had lunch probably, I don't know, a couple months ago or something, just to kind of catch up, get to know each other.
Yep.
And something that you said to me, and it really resonated with me, and I've held on to it, is I asked you a certain problem I was having with family members and stuff like that, and you said the best way I can respect, because I was struggling with the honor thy mother, thy father type aspect, and you said that, and I'll probably butcher it verbatim what you said, but it was something there, well, I honor that person by setting boundaries and keeping my respect for showing that grace, that forgiveness, and just not having that communication. And it kind of blew me away, your response to that, because I was expecting you, being in your line of work, to slap me upside the head with your King James version, just tell me something deep and Psalms that David sang about or something. But you saying the way you did, I was like, wow, and it's just very interesting because where you're at, you're put in a position where kids, and I'm gonna tell you some stuff you preach, man. You pull on. What's your saying that you said? God puts your hand around your heart, and
Chad will say a lot from the pulpit. He said, I'm sorry, God just squeezes my heart and the juice comes out my eyes.
So I love that. And here, and you're how old again?
24.
So here I am at 40, and you do that, and you do that, where the things that God's speaking through in the study and what you're trying to bring and substituting for Chad, and those times really touched me. And it's just very interesting to hear you say that with these people that have such an intimate relationship with you, that it's easier to gain that energy, because I'm just a dude here. I can disappear and you can like, well, Jeff was a nice guy and that's about it. But these people you have a certain connection with, and I think it's impressive. But
listen, man, I know, and this isn't just something I'm supposed to say. This isn't just something that I do say, but I know that I'm the worst sinner that I know, because I know my thoughts. I don't know Jeff Burdett's thoughts. Like, I know the thoughts that come into my head. I know the way that I feel towards people. Like, I know that I'm the worst sinner that I know. So in the same way that we've talked about, like, and you just said, like, I'm just a dude. Like, I get to read my Bible and I got to get an education in it. I'm still in education now, like, learning this stuff. But yeah, I'm the worst sinner that I know. And man, I mess up every day. So I get to do what I get to do, man. There's nothing I love more than being the youth pastor to the students at this church. But a lot of times I feel almost like an imposter, that like, man, I'm worse of a sinner than this 16-year-old following Jesus right now. Like, this 16-year-old is doing it better than I'm doing it right now. I feel that often. But it's an honor to get to do it in spite of me,
I was when I was listening to your story about with the family stuff, I I thought about Stephen and Acts. I've been studying through Acts, and like he just preaches the gospel so clearly to all these people and just enrages them. Like, we're not always going to have everybody that, loves us or loves what we do or our calling. But, like, I just find his response, like, so encouraging, because they go to stone him and he's just like, all right, like, take me. And he has, like, compassion over the people. Like they say, took him out of the city, and as they were stoning him, he called out, Lord, receive my spirit. And he fell on his knees and he cried out, do not hold this sin against him. I was like, man, that's so convicting for us. Like, can we live that way? Like, when people treat us that way, like, can we truly say, like, Lord, don't hold against us? That's what Jesus said on the cross, right? When they killed him and they hung him there. And it says, that's his last words. He fell asleep. I'm like, man, that's convicting, because people aren't always going to love our words. They're not always going to love what we do. We're following Jesus. We don't face oppression like this in a lot of ways, but I think, like, your story is almost a testimony to that in a way, like that, it's hard sometimes to follow Jesus, and, like, family's not going to understand it. Friends aren't going to understand it, and people are going to walk away. But, like, what's our response? And can we have that response like Stephen, when people hurt us, like, don't hold it against them. They don't know. And I think it always goes back to, like, we can't expect non-Christians to act like Christians. It's convicting in some ways. Like, when you see it, we look out in the world and we see everything going on, and you're like, man, this is just a messed up world. But they don't know Jesus. Like, they don't have a standard, because Jesus is the standard. You can look at the laws as like a standard, but, like, Jesus is the ultimate standard for life. And if people don't know him, then they don't know how to act. So I think that's just so convicting to me, to how do we respond to those people?
Yeah.
I know I'm getting in cop mode, asking you a bunch of questions, but
I like it.
some things I hope that some of your kids listen to this, maybe share it, and again have maybe a more intimate relationship with you here in a little bit. But for parents, my kids are 9 and 6, so I'm far from it. But it seems like your experience, and find out you went to AU as well, correct? So the environment that I know, some of these pressures that these parents are having. I have a couple buddies who are visiting college campus and trying to, where does it fit the kid, where do they feel comfortable, but also us as parents going to have a plan where we want our kids to go. How much did Anderson University, besides your friend that led you there and the one that was praying for you and cried for you when you were messing up, how was the environment at Anderson University? Did it have any hand in developing you closer into your ministry, because you switched, but you just kind of talked on your buddy crying for you, and that kind of flipped you? Was it just that exact moment that you're like, okay, this is where I need to be, or was the whole culture of Anderson University that you could share either to the parents looking at maybe their kids going,
Sure.
or kids also looking at they're not quite sure, and maybe that might be a fit for them?
That's a great question. And I would tell you that my friend Brandon, who cried for me, led me, discipled me, all the things, like that definitely kick-started it. But it was the culture of Anderson to develop me to who I am today. In following the Lord, there was a certain groundedness that I received at Anderson because of the culture that I am forever indebted to. There was a on-campus ministry called BCM, and as I got involved with that my freshman year, Brandon happened to be my small group leader, and that's how this got started. Was my freshman year. Sophomore year, going into ministry, I got to start leading a small group. And man, I'm the kind of guy, whenever I get to do something, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go all in. I'm going to give you everything I got. So I got a list of names on the first night of small groups of who was going to be in my small group. And it was 18 names. And I remember what I did is I went to the library that night, right after I got that list of names, never met any of these 18 guys.
And you get to pick?
No, so I was just given some names.
Okay, you were just given. Okay.
And so I was given a list of names, went to the library. I made a spreadsheet of 18 meals that I was going to get every single day. Or not 18 meals every day, every single week. 18 meals every single week. And that's what I did for that entire sophomore year. Every single week I got 18 meals with every single one of those guys. I made sure that I spent time with every single one of them. And in that, it was dumb because I was going a mile wide and an inch deep with 18 different guys. But I learned in that whenever I dropped everything to do BCM. I dropped everything to do ministry. I stopped working. I stopped hanging out with friends. I would sacrifice time on the weekend so that I could go and do ministry with these guys and have breakfast, lunch, and dinner on a Saturday. It was everything to me. I got tunnel vision. because I wanted to be the best BCM leader. There was probably some competition to that. I want to be the best BCM leader on Anderson's campus. And through that, man, my junior year, the Lord blessed me with guys who ended up being in my wedding that came in as freshmen, and I got to lead them. 2 of them I got to lead to the Lord, and 1 of them I got to baptize myself. And through that, man, I was able to. Tim Keller says it this way: you can find your purpose by affinity, opportunity, and ability. And when those 3 things intersect, you found your purpose. So affinity, man, what are you passionate about? Like, what just gets your gears going? Ability, man, like, are you actually able to do it? So I might be passionate about singing, but I can't sing. So that ain't going to be my purpose, right? So I'm passionate about it. I have the ability to do it, and the opportunity is right in front of me. You found your purpose. And, man, BCM showed me that. Man, there was – and I had the ability to get 18 meals a week because I was a college student, man. I can make that happen. I had a meal plan. I can do that. I can sit down with them. Man, I was passionate about it. There was nothing I loved seeing more than people make strides in their faith. And there was an opportunity right in front of me, man. I'm on a college campus. Like, let's go. So I found my purpose, and I said, let's go. So actually doing it and getting my hands dirty, just doing ministry, I learned how to do ministry. It wasn't from a seminary textbook. It wasn't from the classes I was sitting in. No, I learned how to do ministry at Anderson because I just jumped head first in and started doing it. So it developed me for sure.
And that's promoted by Anderson University to
Absolutely.
do that type of thing, or did you
when
take
I was
the
there at
initiative
least,
to do
it was the culture. Whenever I was there at least, okay. It might be taking some steps away from that. I'm not sure. But when I was there, it was white knuckled. Let's go.
And so I want to put a plug in on Mason. Y'all, well, I've got kids in the youth group now, and those things that he's just talking about, he's still applying them today, whether he knows it or not. You know, texting with the kids, having leadership meetings, Boyd's on the leadership team, and the stuff she's learning how to do at a younger age is awesome, and I'm just grateful that God allows him to do that here. It's not all him, it's God.
Absolutely.
But he does have a pretty good hand on it. And like even Catherine's like, Mason texted me and said this. Mason texted me and said that. We went and played golf with Mason. Had a great time. So just the stuff outside of just coming to church and going to the youth group is awesome. And I appreciate that.
All right. I'm going to wrap up with this. You had sent a verse out of 1 Corinthians chapter 16, verse 13. Is that kind of a life verse to you?
It is, absolutely.
Yeah, so
it's the lock screen on my phone.
There you go. Yeah, so you probably know it. Be watchful, stand firm in the faith, act like men, and be strong. And then 14 says, let all that you do be done in love. So may that be an encouragement to everybody listening this week, to us, that we would just do everything in love. And I think that's sometimes hard because we're sinners, we get frustrated. You have kids, you get frustrated with your kids to anger sometimes. And, let everything you do be done in love. So thank you for coming on, man. I appreciate your story. It's very compelling for me. Hope it's compelling for people that are listening as well. And so we appreciate you sharing that. Dan, you want to close us in prayer? We close out.
Dear God, I just thank you for Mason and what he means to a ton of kids, dear God, not just in this church, but in this community, dear God. I just thank you for the guys here. I thank you for all that we have going on, dear God. I just want you to keep us disciplined, keep us in your will, keep your hand on us to just keep pushing forward, dear God. Just thank you for everything that you've blessed our families with. Be with our families. And we just thank you again for everything. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right, it's been episode 2. We'll see you guys next week.